Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we call the roll, please?
Certainly. McCumber. Here. Barchef.
Here.
McManus.
Here.
Duell.
Here.
Augustinelli.
Here.
Schmuckel.
Here.
And Korn.
Here. All present and accounted for. First item on our agenda is public comment. You'd be so kind as to give us your name and address. Thank you.
I'm Eric Falcon. I'm at 3141 Sunset Lane, and I also am an operations manager for Beta. I'd like to comment on the upcoming millage proposal. But first, I'd like to thank Garfield Township leaders and staff for assisting in acquiring the land at Hammond and Lafreniere and getting a PUD plan passed. We appreciate that Garfield Township values transit and has worked with us to improve the network. Beta services 900 square miles in Grand Traverse and Leelanau counties. We provide nearly 1,000 rides every day, and we give more than 100,000 rides annually to seniors and people with disabilities. Our millage proposal is up on the November 8th ballot. We are asking for a renewal of the 0.4788 mills, which is less than the millage that was approved in 2017. That was 0.5. This will cover operation expenses from January 2023 through December of 2027. Since the millage was passed in 2017, we've launched a link-on-demand service that allows riders to request transportation in real time and get a ride within 30 minutes or less. We've expanded our green bus fleet. We've got now 50% of our buses running on domestic propane fuel. We've added Wi-Fi on all buses and have improved bus stops, over 60 of them, to add shelters, benches, and improved accessibility. In 2018, we connected the region with the launch of a fare-free route, Bayline. It's a high-frequency route downtown or through town. We've secured federal and state funding to build the new facility that's at Hammond and Lafreniere. We reached our record ridership in 2019, giving over 591,000 rides that year. And since 2017, we've provided more than 2 million rides. And then the future of Beta is currently being launched with the Beta Next Wave. It will map out our services for the next 5 to 10 years, and it will work in conjunction with adapting to the changing needs of the communities in Grand Traverse and Leelanau County. What does Beta provide? If the millage is approved, we will fund the ability to continue to deliver safe, high-quality, efficient, and reliable transportation services in our region. It will provide essential transportation for seniors, students, and persons with disabilities, and it will connect people to jobs that support and grow our local economy. I have leaflets I could leave behind. Also, for anyone interested, visit beta.net/millage for more information. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Eric. Is there anyone else for public comment today? We'll close public comment, come back to the board for review and approval of the amended agenda and statements of conflict. Do we have any conflicts of interest?
No, sir. Make a motion that we approve the amended agenda.
Support. We have a motion and support to approve the amended agenda as presented. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is the consent calendar.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with in one board motion without discussion. Any member of the board, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single board action adopting the consent calendar. You have the minutes of September 13th, 2022, regular meeting, and September 21st, 2022, special budget meeting. Recommend approval. Bills from the general fund, $443,578.53. Recommend approval. Gordy Frazier, Developers Escrow Fund, Stormwater Reviews, Utility Plan Review, Oversight and Closeout, and Private Road Review, $14,689.13. And General Utilities, $10,201.50, for a total of $24,890.63. Recommend approval. You have MTT update, receive and file. Consideration of contractor's application for payment number 3 to Elmer's for Cedar Run PRV. Recommend approval. Consideration of contractor's application for payment number 7 to Grand Traverse Construction for Township Roof. Recommend approval. Consideration of amended resolution 2022-05-T for Chef Lady Tavern license, updating the address, suite number. Recommend approval. Consideration of resolution 2022-22T, a resolution recommending approval of new Resort B Hotel and SDM liquor licenses for Traverse Blue B&W LLC. Recommend approval. And a highlighted list of board appointments expiring December 31st, 2022. Receive and file.
Is there any member of the board who would like to remove anything from the consent calendar for discussion?
I do.
Or any member of the public?
Laney
sorry?
does.
Laney?
I want G removed.
The,
Resort license.
Oh, yeah, okay. Any other board member?
I have a question regarding the applications for appointments. Do we need to remove that, or?
The application for appointments were for information only, just so that you were aware of
Okay.
what positions were, so there's no
Perfect.
no action requested.
Okay.
All right. Again, any member of the public would like to remove anything from the consent calendar, or staff? Then I would look for a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item G.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion from McManus and support from
It was
Barchef.
Sorry,
Augustinelli.
Augustinelli.
Augustinelli, excuse me. Any questions or comments? All right. And if we may have a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Barshef.
Yes.
Dool.
Yes.
Schmuckel.
Yes.
McCumber.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes. All right, the next item is items removed from the consent calendar, and that would be item G, a liquor license.
I have a question. What is this? We denied them the Class C, correct?
Correct.
And so this is just an on-premises?
Right, so we retained our Class C for a potential
Sure.
bar and restaurant type of operation. And there were other ways for the hotel to get this, and this one is specifically, they talk about MCL 436.15314.
Yeah.
That is one that is strictly for hotel guests. So it doesn't come out of our allotment.
That was my concern.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect.
Would you like to make a motion to approve that?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Thank you.
Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the liquor license application. Any questions or comments? This is a resolution. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
Schmuckel.
Yes.
Barshef.
Yes.
McCumber.
Yes.
Dool.
Yes.
Augustinelli.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes. And it is approved. Move on to correspondence. We have a letter from Northwest Education Services, formerly known as TBA ISD, and a letter from John Edgecombe.
That letter from John Edgecombe, that's more of a road commission issue, isn't it?
It is, his concern is how much the road commission is going to pay him for his property.
Well, he has another concern, and that's that people come down Town Line Road and they cut through his fruit market. and head out onto Hammond because they don't like to wait there when traffic gets backed up. So there is a safety issue there. I've been at the market before and seen people zip through, so
Especially if someone's turning left and they don't want to wait.
they don't want to
I just saw it
wait.
yesterday, too.
They just go. And so, but it is something that the road commission ought to look at, and, you know, Garfield Township, it's right on the line.
Mm-hmm.
East Bay could also, but the people that violate are crossing Garfield Township side, not
So-
the other, so.
Yeah, we have discussed it with the road commission, and they're aware, so. All right. We'll move on to reports. Item A is the county commissioner's report.
Good evening, everyone. Brad Jewett, Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners. Got a few things here to report tonight. A couple meetings ago, since we didn't have a meeting here at the end of the month, we did approve for the county to enter a memorandum of understanding with Northern Lakes Community Mental Health to rewrite the agreement. So as of that date there, 3 weeks ago, there were 6 out of the 7 counties that have signed the same thing. I have not heard on the 7th county yet, but looks like we are moving forward to possibly rewrite that agreement and everything. We also approved administration to go out for an RFP for the facilities master plan, and the scope of that's going to be not just facilities and everything, but it's going to look at the whole entire operation to see if we're efficient with the number of employees that we have, and see if we need to add employees, see if we need to consolidate some stuff. So it's going to be pretty broad and everything from the sounds of it, or that's the idea of it anyway. ARPA deadline for people and businesses and entities to apply for some of the ARPA money is October 31st. Once we get those applications, they will go in front of the ARPA committee first, and they will go through and make sure they meet the criteria of what ARPA guidelines are, and then it'll be handed over to us. I'm sure we'll have a couple study sessions on that, and hopefully we can approve some of them funds here in the beginning of December by the sounds of it. Emergency management, that facility is in the final stages this week and next week of being updated with all the updates we approved here back late spring, early summer. Right now they're in there doing the technology updates with the touch screens and different things and making sure everything communicates and everything. One other thing too, we do have several initiatives on the ballot for millages this year and everything. One of them is Commission on Aging, one is Senior Center Network, Animal Control, Veterans Affairs, and Beta. One thing I do want to mention about Beta, I do sit on the Beta board and everything. They have, over the last couple of years, in part it was because of COVID and part of it's because of staffing right now, have cut many runs right here in our own community, but they've cut almost everything out of Leelanau County. So I just want people to be aware of that is going on. And also that board, our board there, as a whole approved for Beta to go after a 5-year millage instead of a 4-year to have it fall on election time. One thing I don't like about that is the fact that in 2017, when Beta did that, it cost taxpayers almost $200,000 to put on a special election. By going with a 5-year millage, it's also going to cost that much or more again in 5 years. So I just want people to be aware that I don't think that is a good use of taxpayer money when we could have it every 4 years when there's a general election. So that's my thoughts anyway. Again, let's see, I think I covered everything. So does anybody have any questions or comments for me tonight? Chris?
Regarding the enabling agreement, I don't know how much you can get into this. If you have one county who may not sign the MOU, can you just press on with the other counties and just kind of omit that county from the enabling agreement, or advantages, disadvantages of doing that? Can it be done?
It can be done from what I understand. Now, I've not sat in on those meetings and stuff. We got other people that are sitting in on, but from what I understand, it can be done, and we do have overwhelmingly the majority that want to rewrite the agreement. So even if the way I understand it, even if one chooses not to rewrite it, we can still rewrite it.
Okay.
And then they can choose to
Go on their
participate
own.
or not participate. But most of the counties have seen that it does need to be rewritten. It's several years old.
2003.
Yep, 2003. I was going to say almost 20 years old
Yeah.
and stuff. And some of the stuff was dated in there. Some of it needs to be tweaked and everything. So, but the counties are in agreement that it needs to be rewritten. So, and between the time we approved this memorandum of understanding, the group that's meeting with them, maybe the seventh one have signed on. I just not have heard of
Okay.
that yet. So,
Okay, thank you.
but yep.
Any other questions for Brad? Thank you, sir.
And again, my contact information's on the county website. So if anybody needs to reach out to me, please do.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
All right, the next is the construction report.
Good evening, everyone. Jennifer Graham, Gordy Frazier. In your packet, it's probably dated, it looks like September 21st. So is the engineering construction update for township projects. Just to go through some high-level ones, the Stone Ridge, well, it's listed as Stone Ridge, it was a combination, but specifically it's Cedar Run PRV. That project is complete. The PRV is working. We just haven't finalized closeout yet. We're waiting on one piece of telemetry equipment. So just to provide the DPW ability to monitor it live. So it is working mechanically. It's just having pieces and equipment. Everything takes a while to get. So, but I am told the end of this month we'll have it, and then we'll be able to close that project out. The Cedar Run water main, that's you guys, I've reported to you guys, that project went up for bid. We do have a cost gap, and so that project's currently on hold, looking for some other funding sources. Tank inspections were complete September 21st, and I didn't hear anything, so that's, knock on wood, good news, that our tanks are all sound and operating as intended, but they are per their contract to provide us the reports the end of this month, and I'll go through that with Supervisor Korn once I receive those in the DPW. Silver Lake Sewer Extension, that project is complete as far as design and being submitted for permit. Couple other things as far as last meeting that I attended a month ago, you guys approved our contract to complete the engineering reports to apply to Eagle Clean Water and Drinking Water loan process, so we're actively working on that, and I'm collecting all the records from the DPW as far as flow data and starting just to collaborate everything together. County ARPA funds, working with staff on a few applications that just to get those wrapped up and get those definitely submitted before October 31st comes around, so we're pretty excited at the opportunity. River East, I've received all the paperwork from the contractor and just going to execute contracts so that we can start moving ahead with the first part of phase 2, which they're still slated to get in there and do some site clearing and just some earthwork and for that first phase, and then get fencing ordered, because that again has a very long lead time on that project, and so they'll have that wrapped up just before summer of next year. And then a lot of plan reviews. Beta facility, South 22, are patiently waiting for, specifically on the sewer side permits, just so you guys are aware. I've been putting Eagle on notice because they're taking over 100 days to issue us sewer permits, and it's frustrating. So we've been very vocal to them about that. On the water side, they're 30 days, and sewer is struggling, and a lot of developments are actively, patiently waiting for their permits. So I'm hopeful we'll get those soon, because I know South 22 on the corner, they already have their pipe there and just waiting. Britain, their new building is a new project that we're reviewing. Fairfield Inn is another new one, and then a handful of stormwater reviews. So, but I will entertain any questions that this board has for me. Right.
You got off easy.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer.
Next item is the sheriff's report.
Good evening, Brandon Brinks with the Sheriff's Office. Not a lot to report tonight, but we had 43 tickets issued, we had 13 injury crashes, 75 property damage crashes, 6 OWI arrests, 44 criminal arrests, and 88 traffic crash totals there. And then just for the third quarter totals that were sent out, there's 141 tickets for the 3 months. We had 1 fatal that was just on the border of Leelanau, Grand Traverse. 37 injury crashes, 230 property damage crashes, 26 people taken to jail for drunk driving, 181 other criminal arrests, and then 268 total arrests. Didn't have as many things going for September. Had the same Coffee with a Cop. We kicked off our fraud classes on the 14th at Cordia, and trying to get people to sign up for those. We got 4 of them scheduled for this month, and so far we don't have a lot of interest, so hopefully people start signing up for those. And then Mikowski did his car seat requalifications, or whatever you call them over there, where he got recertified for that stuff. So yeah, a few things going in October coming up with some presentations from Deputy Mikowski and Halloween and various other things coming up, but that's it. Any questions for me for September?
Molly?
Yes,
Just,
ma'am.
Can you update us a little bit on Halloween's coming up? What's our fentanyl situation? You're hearing about that all the time on national. Are we seeing any of that kind of stuff up here, or
In relation to Halloween?
Halloween candy and
Oh,
That
I don't know
kinda-
anything about, I personally have not heard anything. I haven't gotten any bulletins. I've not seen anything come from any of the
Okay.
sources that I have on anything to be concerned about with Halloween candy, but, so, if we do, we'll certainly get that out to the news, but I haven't talked to anybody or heard of anybody that's
it may not be
done
here.
anything.
but-
I hope not.
Yeah, me too.
So,
Very good.
anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Planning Department report for October.
Good evening. You have their report in the packet. Just want to highlight a couple things on the developments. The Planning Commission will be holding a public hearing on October 26th for the 7 Brew special use permit. This is a proposed drive-through coffee shop at the, near the intersection of US 31 and South Airport Road. It basically was replacing the PNC, the former PNC Bank there that's between Mutual Gas and Speedway gas stations. In terms of planning, we're awaiting kind of the draft for the Commons Natural Area Design Plan. ECT is putting the final touches on that. We should have that soon. We're contemplating a public meeting on October 26th between 5 p.m. and 6:30 in this room to present that to the public. But before that, it has to go, we're sending that to the Parks and Rec Commission, and also will be informing the Joint Planning Commission as well. We are also working on updating the Parks and Rec Master Plan, so that information for the Commons Natural Area will be incorporated into that as well. And then also, as Jennifer mentioned, we're working on the ARPA applications that are due at the end of this month.
Any questions for Mr. Syke?
Terra Firma's putting a kitchen in?
Perhaps. We'll see on that one. They came with their concept. I think there was a lot of discussion when that first went in about 10 years ago or so. There's some concern whether they're still meeting their requirements of what that PUD originally envisioned in terms of producing agricultural items on site. That's been kind of a question of the Planning Commission, as well as ensuring that it doesn't become a full-blown restaurant that could be replicated in other areas in the ag district. So that's something we'll see how that goes forward.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Yep.
So the concern on the PNC Bank site about a left turn, would MDOT get involved in that review and make a recommendation that they put a no left turn sign up, or how does that work?
So they've been involved. So basically, it started with, we required the applicant to do a traffic impact study. So they retained Fishback out of Grand Rapids. We required a review of that, so the township retained OHM based on an escrow that's provided by the applicant. OHM does a lot of work with the road commission, so we've worked with them before, so they kind of know our road system. So they reviewed that, as well as MDOT had an opportunity to review the traffic impact study done by Fishback. And it was determined that there wasn't a need for any type of improvements to that in terms of the turning movements.
There wasn't?
No, there was not.
Really?
So that's still concerns us, even though from a traffic engineer standpoint, it still has some concerns. We are still working with the applicant and expressed that we are concerned about the entryway onto that site, which is a shared driveway currently with the former bank site and the gas station, the mutual gas station. Back in 2003, that's when MDOT upgraded that intersection. And there used to be 6 driveways on that west side, basically kind of where now that entryway is to Best Buy all the way down to Speedway. There were 6. They went in there and consolidated down to 4. So there was that shared driveway, which is about, it's very wide, it's about 38 feet wide. So our goal right now is to, why there may be not much that we can do to restrict the actual turning movements, is to actually improve that driveway. So that it's a longer driveway, so that there's more of a kind of a deeper throat to it, so that it would restrict. What we'd like to see is that people that are exiting both the proposed coffee shop or the gas station have a stop sign and then would go into the actual driveway lane. So that would be much narrower, kind of longer, and then that would actually help to control some of the movements there, because right now it's kind of a wide open situation. So that doesn't necessarily get back to or resolve our concerns about traffic movement there. I mean, I think we're still concerned about that. MDOT has not really said anything that they were against what was being proposed, so.
It just seems like high volume and dangerous to turn north. You know, you think about on Garfield at Carver, just south of there, we used to be the old Whitmark property to the east. You pull out of there and you got to turn right only.
Correct, yeah. Actually, there was prior, when that bank was first went in, there was a right-in, right-only, or excuse me, right-in, right-out only driveway for that bank purely, and that was removed when they consolidated the drives and kind of just opened that up.
You know, the purpose of it, you're still going across, what, 6 lanes at that point?
Yes, it's very wide.
Yeah,
2 of
okay.
them are left.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I mean,
Terrible.
so when they were looking at the numbers for like morning traffic, a lot of it's heading northbound, didn't seem that to be an issue, but this is a business that, okay, yes, it's coffee, which is mostly used in the morning, but there are, if you look at like a Starbucks on a Saturday afternoon, it's jammed too.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. So, and that's when the intersection kind of heats up is afternoons. And you know that those, I mean, there's a reason why they built 2 double left turn lanes there.
Yeah.
It does get used. So that's our concern. It's really hard for us to, when we've had a couple engineering firms, traffic engineers, look at it and, you know.
Go against it, right?
Yeah, so if we were to still hold them, there is some criteria in our special use permit. So I think we'll try to look as much as that, but I don't think there's anything in there that we could flat out deny them. If that was contested, I don't think we have a leg to stand on should that go to court. But I do think there are some provisions in there that we can ensure that this is a concern, and it does need to be, you know, monitored and addressed should that become problematic.
You have multiple crashes out front, and maybe review it again and adjust it. Okay.
Steve?
Okay, thank you.
Does the gas station driveway right there, that's not right, that can be either right or left, right? For the next door, what is that? Next
Mutual,
door,
mutual service.
The mutual,
Mutual is-
small
no,
one.
I'm talking the one right on the corner.
Oh, Speedway.
Speedway. Their driveway near them that touches that driveway's
Either way.
not indicated as either or.
That's correct. Speedway has 2 driveways there that are actually closer to the intersection.
Right,
Yeah.
one on each side of the
Well,
pumps
on
and then
31.
one on,
Yeah.
okay.
Right. However, the interesting thing there is that they do have that exit out onto South Airport.
Correct.
So if there was any issues, it does allow drivers to access out towards the light that way if they wanted to, say, go north and go out to the
Head
light.
east and then north, that way.
Is
yeah.
Speedway willing to allow a mutual connection?
They were not, mainly because they have some of their tanks on that north end, and they did not want vehicles driving
Going
over
over
that
them.
particular area.
Okay.
Yeah, but the planning commission kind of also looked if there was a way to connect to the back, you know, through that way. and didn't seem like there was many options there at this point. So
Okay.
it's not resolved yet, but we figure at least we're still moving through with the
Yeah.
review process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
If there's no other questions for John, we will move on to the Parks and Rec report.
Good evening, Sean Kehoe, Garfield Township. You all have the Parks report that was given to you in the packet, so I'll just highlight a few of the things that are on there and maybe a couple that aren't. With the recent visit to Home Depot and the seeing all the Christmas decorations are out. Unfortunately, it's that time of year, so Silver Lake has been, all the irrigation and water to the dog parks has been shut down for the winter. For the Commons, Steve already mentioned the public presentation on the 26th, so hopefully that'll be good. And then one of our trail cameras picked up 4 individuals spray painting one of the bridges in there, so we printed that off and we posted that at the kiosks asking for public input on if they can be identified. We haven't heard anything yet, but keeping our fingers crossed. You never know, they get a lot of in-town and out-of-town traffic there, so who knows. River East, the ceiling on the pavilion is completed. Thank you, Steve, for the help on the carrier, on the directions. Those were all taken care of. We're looking to install some temporary footbridges there to replace some of the old ones that are starting to sag and break down over some of those creeks that are right along the river. They're feeder creeks. So Miller Creek has kind of been a recent hotbed for some of the encampments. We removed 4 there a couple weeks ago and a couple individuals out of there with the help of the CPOs. And we just found 4 more off of Cass Road back in the woods there south of the storage unit. So we've posted those and we're making plans to remove all the garbage that's in there probably in the next week or so. Kids Creek and Buffalo Ridge Trail, we had a volunteer tree planting with 20 trees that were donated by DTE and with help from Relief Michigan. We got 20 really nice trees in there along the trail. We had volunteers from Relief Michigan, DTE, Consumers, and then Norm's Boardman River Group showed up with five people, and DTE even had a crew of 5 guys that was very helpful and made the planning go a lot faster. So they look pretty good. We're just watering them and staking them right now. Chloe was there. Chloe and I planted a tree. So
yeah, and Amy, my
and
deputy
Amy was there as well. Yep. So and Axel, right? Axton.
Her grandson was there helping too.
Yep. So that went well. The only other thing I have is that under the additional, I would just like to take the time to thank Brandon and his CPOs. They've been a big help in trying to stay on this homeless encampment stuff. And George Preston's been down religiously with us whenever we ask him and taking the information of the people if we do contact people and down there checking the parks and stuff for us and going down with us in some of those situations where it might be a little bit questionable. So I just want to thank Brandon and his crew for stepping up. They've been very proactive in this pilgrimage to keep things at bay, so to speak. So, questions for me?
Thanks, Sean.
Just a comment.
Yes.
So last week, the township allowed the sheriff's office to host a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request training here. And just want to thank you for helping with the room setup and tear down. That was very helpful. So it wasn't planting trees or cleaning up, but it was a little different, but helpful. Thank you.
That's all right. I'll do anything for a donut. He's a policeman at heart.
Yeah. I've never ran away from that stereotype.
So that
Guilty
was
as
your
charged.
in. You came up here and saw that, like, hey, I'll help you.
Yeah, I'll help
knowing.
you. Yeah. So, anything else?
Thanks, Sean.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Yep.
Next item is the clerk's report.
I've submitted my clerk's report in writing. Are there any questions?
Anything exciting happening in the clerk's office?
Just elections, just elections. It's been busy, a lot of walk-in traffic lately, people wanting their ballots and complaining about the mail service. We've mailed ballots out and they just never show up, so we've had to reissue a lot more ballots. So, well, just as, I know, I don't know where it is, they haven't come back. The husband's was delivered, the wife's didn't make it, and we don't know. A lot of walk-in traffic, a lot of questions over the phone, but usual election.
Any questions for Laney? All right. Next item is the supervisor's report. We have a tentative agreement with the Metro Firefighters Union. I think they did a very good job with that. They cleared up a lot of fuzzy issues, and it went relatively painless. It's not done yet, but it's close. We also took a look at rewriting the chief's job description for Metro. It's anticipated that our current chief will be retiring in the near future. So we have to start that process soon. Met with Greg Bird and Nate Alger and Supervisor Friend to talk about the planning for the amount of traffic that's going to be diverted to South Airport Road when they're working on the Parkway. It's going to be pretty rough, and I don't know how they're going to get a lot of people through that 3-mile South Airport corridor, because there's houses tight on each side. You don't have a lot of room to work, but they're going to see what they can do.
When is that supposed to happen?
I believe 2024.
Okay.
Got
a little time then, right?
Yeah, they still have time, but they need to do something. Let's see. Met with the group from Blair to talk about PILT projects. They had a developer approach the township about building some workforce housing in Blair, and they have no database at all. So spent a couple hours talking to them and telling them the process we've been through and some of the mistakes we've made. And so it sounds like they're positive about the project at this point, and that'll help. That's good stuff. We met today with the county. The county is considering pictometry, the high-resolution aerial photography for the entire county. So that will reduce our expense. We're having a flyover every other year. The county's planning on doing every third year. So that can reduce our expenses, and we were glad to hear it. So that's about what's going on in the supervisor's office, unless there's any questions.
Doesn't the county do some of that pictometry? It seems like, well, I mean, I've gotten pictures of big things from the county.
Yeah.
Or are they putting it together from all the townships?
They're putting together what they get from the townships, and they're using a lower resolution type of thing. This is like 4 times the data in our
Good. Yeah.
pictometry than there is in the standard. So that'll be good. All right. We'll close the supervisor's report and move on to unfinished business. First item is consideration of Resolution 2022-23T, a resolution adopting payment in lieu of taxes guidelines. We have written up the guidelines that we gathered from our previous conversations. Steve?
I had a quick question. Underneath the guidelines, where it talks about targeting total pilots units at approximately 15% of the total number of housing units. Is it, like, let's say there's a building with 15 housing homes in there, is that count as 15? It doesn't count as one?
Correct.
Okay, so it's per family dwelling is basically what it is?
Exactly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
What are we at right now?
Right now, we're just under 15.
Okay.
Is that before the beta and before the new ones
Yes.
that are already on the board and have been approved?
We will
So
exceed
we
15,
will be exceeding that.
at least temporarily. We have some other market rate housing projects that are coming online in the very near future, so I think that'll stabilize. Yes, ma'am?
I would like to make a motion that Resolution 2022-23-T for adopting the payment in lieu of taxes pilot guidelines be adopted.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Are there any other questions or comments? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
Yes.
McCumber.
Yes.
Dool.
Yes.
Gustinelli.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
Corn.
Yes. And resolution is adopted. Thank you. Next is the 2022 Garfield Township Community Survey Summary Report. Mr. Syke?
Yes, in your packet is a report that Planning Department staff prepared for the community survey. There was a draft of this report that was presented to the Planning Commission a couple of weeks ago, and we took their comments and tweaked the report a little bit. But on page 3 is really kind of the key findings. There's some bulleted items there. The interesting thing is that we found that some of the top reasons that people value their quality of life in Garfield Township is feeling of safety and security, along with a relationship to nature, including parks and natural areas. They want the township, at least on those things that we can impact, is to focus on protecting the natural environment, housing choices and affordability and quality and quantity of parks and open spaces. So I think the efforts that the township has made into its parks is certainly recognized by the residents as well. One of the questions we have in the report is talking about how are we developing? Are we developing too fast, too slow, right about right? Right now, it looks like we're still about right, but it's kind of changed compared to when we did that in 2015. And it looks like people are feeling a little bit more stressed. And I think that relates back to another question that we have in here, which talks about parkland. And there is an interest to purchase additional parkland, and I think that's kind of in response to feeling like there's a lot of development going on. And it's not to say that they want to see more formalized parks, but I think they want to see that there's some land preservation going on. And I think that it's important to recognize that in Garfield Township, we're not the only ones in terms of having parkland. There are other entities, whether it's the Regional Land Conservancy or others, that have parkland within the township. So there are efforts to preserve parkland in the township, but I think there is definitely some correlation between how we're developing and people wanting to see that it's balanced. Nearly 90% residents support incentivizing redevelopment of outdated and commercial and industrial areas. Protecting agricultural and rural areas remains a high priority. There is support for pathways through the township. About 2/3 support that. And certainly improving our commercial corridors remains a priority. When we looked at some very specific issues, there's kind of split on the winery tasting rooms. I don't think there's kind of right down the middle, so it's something that may or may not fit in the township. But then there's definitely strong opposition to marijuana dispensaries in the township. Short-term rentals, there's opposition by nearly 2/3. Although we did see some comments in there at the open-ended section at the end where people still were supportive of short-term rentals, but easily 2/3 are against short-term rentals. There is general support for accessory dwelling units. So as the Planning Commission goes through its updating of the master plan and we start talking about housing options, that's something that could be looked at once the master plan is done and seeing if there's ways that we might incorporate that into the zoning ordinance. We asked a question about taller buildings. Basically, the highest building that you can put in the township right now is 50 feet or 4 stories. So going taller than that, there was opposition to that. And we did identify that there is the opportunity if we wanted to alter the name of the township, that the state law does now accommodate that. And there was opposition to that as well. But just for those that may not be familiar, this was a survey that we did of 4,200 residents that we sampled within Garfield Township. It is broken down by voter precincts, so we did expand some of those questions, at least some of the questions into the precincts, so you can kind of see the response. So it is interesting. For instance, I think our efforts for River East are going to be serving when we ask people if they wish there was a park closer to their home. People on the west side weren't as concerned, but certainly people on the east side or east of the river were interested in that. And I think so that development of River East is going to help service or serve those interests from people there. So there is the ability to get into this a little bit more. If there's interest by the board, we can do that as well.
I like the one where 83% are not likely to move.
Yeah, and I should mention too, as I read all the surveys in terms of the comments, I think there was some compliments to the township leadership as well as, Parks Department and the things that the township's doing. So I think there's generally some satisfaction for people living here in terms of quality of life that I think we're headed in the right direction, I should say.
Great.
Great survey. Thanks for doing this.
So this is going to be really helpful for us when we're doing the master plan and updating it. Kind of gives us some guidance on where to go with things.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, John.
Thanks for the work.
And the next item is item C, a late addition. Consideration of Resolution 2022-24T, a resolution regarding tax abatement and payments to be made in lieu of taxes for Hammond Road Apartments. And we had indicated a willingness in a previous meeting to do a payment in lieu of taxes. So these are the actual agreements that specify the percent of payments to be collected in lieu of taxes and the municipal services agreement to cover our emergency services.
I just had one small little change.
Mm-hmm.
Just on municipal service agreement on page 2, just the due date in paragraph 3. The pilot payment's due on April 1st, so I would prefer that they pay their municipal service fee at the same time. So if we could change that from July 1st to April 1st, it just makes things easier for me to collect it all at once. And that's what I do with our other pilots.
Okay.
So I don't know why, that must just be in the template, July 1st, but do you think there's any issue with changing that to April 1st?
I wouldn't think that would be a terrible burden. Nope.
A couple months earlier?
Not a
Okay,
burden.
thank you. It's just easier for me on my end, and to keep it all the same is helpful.
Yep. Karen will
Just that update.
correct that.
Thank you.
I do have a question on where it's highlighted for 6 members.
Yes.
That was because of the October 11th meeting. Will that change now that we have 7 here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Karen will correct that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Would there be a motion to consider the resolution 2024-T?
Support. Yes.
We have
So
a
moved.
motion
So moved.
I will support it.
and we have support.
That came out wrong.
Yeah, it did.
Any questions or comments? A roll call vote, please.
Jewel.
Yes.
Schmuckel.
Yes.
Augustinelli.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
Barsha.
Yes.
McCumber.
Yes.
Corn.
Yes. And the motion passes. Move on to new business. Item A is a brownfield redevelopment presentation for Traverse City Curling Center by Mac McClellan of Mac Consulting Service, LLC.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's great to see many of you that I know and to meet those trustees that I haven't met before. My name is Mac McClellan. I'm here representing the TC Curling Club, Traverse City Curling Club, to discuss a proposal, introduction for a proposed brownfield plan for the redevelopment of the former Kmart site. Tonight with me is Kevin Byrne and Lowell Grumman from the TC Curling Club, and they can answer any specific questions, especially in technique and scoring that I'm not familiar with. So they'll be able to deal with that as well. So as you know, the TC Curling Club has acquired the former Kmart property and is redeveloping it for the curling club in about a third of the building and utilizing the rest of the building for some private redevelopment in the future. And there's quite a few extraordinary costs in redeveloping that, dealing with the asbestos and lead paint on the site, addressing some of the environmental conditions on the site, and also doing some of the selective demolition to clear the site and be ready for redevelopment. There's Act 381, Michigan's brownfield financing law, passed in 1996, that allows for those extraordinary costs to be reimbursed through the increased taxes generated by the additional private investment. Those are captured by the Brownfield Authority and reimbursed. And I forgot to say that I was going to do my standard 2-hour brownfield presentation, but I was advised, be brief, brother, be brief, to cut it short. So that you can see online. I got a YouTube channel. No, not really. And so as a result, there's an opportunity to help stimulate and support these projects by reimbursing those costs that would not otherwise be generated if the project does not proceed. And so it really helps out the financing for the projects, helps support the project as well. And I think probably in this case provides sort of a unique pilot opportunity for the redevelopment of the portion of the Cherryland Mall, and can look at other opportunities for other redevelopment opportunities there. So really, the tax increment financing is limited to specific eligible property. In this case, it would be the Kmart building. It has to qualify as eligible property. There was an environmental assessment done, and the site does have contamination on the site from the former auto activities at the Kmart site. And so it does qualify as brownfield eligible property. Provided in the summary of the list of eligible activities as we have them for a budget right now. And just in summary, it deals with those environmental issues. They're also, even though you may be exempt from the liability as you go through the process for acquiring the property, you have due care obligations for any contamination. So we've included some dollars in there to deal with some of those due care activities. The predominant activities are asbestos abatement and demolition for the project, as well as brownfield plan preparation and approval. And so, one question that's asked is that the TC Curling Club itself is a nonprofit organization and won't generate those taxes, those increases in taxes. But as I mentioned, 2/3 of the property is going to be managed by a separate entity and leased for, and will generate property taxes as it develops. So that will be the source of those increased taxes that would be captured to repay those. If that development does not occur, no taxes are captured, and there's no obligation to repay the curling club. So the risk is all on the curling club to conduct these activities. For brownfield plans, a brownfield plan must be approved by the County Brownfield Authority and their governing body, the County Board of Commissioners, with the concurrence of the local unit of government in which the brownfield plan is located. That's you. And so what we wanted to do is to introduce the project tonight, answer any questions that you may have about the brownfield activities in TIF or the project itself. No action is requested, and I've provided kind of a schedule that hopefully we'll be able to come back at your November meeting with the full brownfield plan for consideration and your concurrence. So is that okay for brevity?
Well done.
All right, thank you. So happy to answer any questions.
Molly?
Sure. Okay, so you mentioned, was it 2/3 of the property will be a for-profit, and that's where the money is going to get returned to the brownfield? Or is that is that 2/3 of the Kmart building, or is that 2/3 of the whole Cherryland Mall
No,
site?
this is only limited to the Kmart building.
Okay.
And 2/3 of the Kmart building will be the
Will be
taxable entity
for profit.
generating taxes, right?
Okay.
So we don't anticipate gathering taxes from the pavement, from the area that could be developed outside of the building.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, early on, and thought that it might be best to limit this to the Kmart property. There's always an opportunity to amend if there are some other developments that happen in that area, redevelopments. We could amend the plan and expand that eligible activity, or you can even do a separate brownfield plan, if that makes sense. So as those development opportunities come up, we can address that, again, either within this plan or in a separate plan. It just seemed to make sense to kind of limit it. We have a developer here, we have the activity going on, and we can work with this, and then, if necessary, adjust accordingly.
Okay, very good.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
Sounds great.
So you won't have the Wendy's and Burger King and all that, they're not
Nope,
included?
not included.
Just within the wall structure of the existing Kmart?
The property, I believe it extends the Kmart property, including their parking area
Okay, there's
and
parking
and the
area.
building itself, right?
There's a couple little shops there. Are those included in that too, or like no? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that building it's a little deceiving, the Cherryland Center, so that like frontage that you see on the South Airport side is actually under separate ownership.
Okay, that's
even though
what I
it's
thought, but,
abuts the Kmart building.
okay.
I'm excited for the development. I think it's going to
Yes.
make a big difference in that corridor, and
We thank you.
good job.
I think one of the things that I found, in my experience too, is that once you have something happen there, that just kind of spin off and really
Right.
breeds some other opportunities there, so.
Sure pickleball got a
with
hold
that
of you.
investment.
Sports complex.
Yeah, there you go.
Sports complex.
Great, so we'll be back in November with the full Brownfield plan and a resolution for your concurrence to the Brownfield plan after the Brownfield Authority looks at it.
I appreciate this. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
My
Mac.
pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And last but not least, under new business, consideration of resolution 2022-21T, a resolution to adopt the Grand Traverse County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. And the plan itself is about that thick.
Oh.
You can go online to read it if you want to, but Greg Bird prepared a synopsis of the changes from the plan we adopted several years ago. And I think I am absolutely thrilled that Greg Bird provides this service. He does a good job, and he is,
Fantastic job.
yeah, he knows what he's doing, and he works hard. He couldn't be here today because he's away at his annual training that he has to
FEMA
attend.
conference.
Yep.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2022-21-T.
Sports.
We have a motion and support to adopt 2022-21T, to adopt the Grand Traverse County Natural Mitigation Plan. Are there any questions or comments? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Augustinelli.
Yes.
Barshop.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
McCumber.
Yes.
Dool.
Yes.
Schmuckel.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes. That's unanimous. Thank you. That brings us back to public comment. Is there any member of the public who would care to address the board at this time? We will come back to the board for any other business. I'm sorry, Chris?
So there were some concerns in the Barlow area about the residents not being able to access the TART trail very easy without playing Frogger on Barlow.
Yep.
And just a few weeks ago, Elmer's was paving the east side of the road. And I didn't know if that was an extension or did they pull some blacktop up and redo it? But it definitely provides a really good walking path for people. And I've talked with John about possibilities of how do they get over to the TART trail on Premier, and he said that there's some possible opportunities for funding, and so I think it's kind of on the radar to improve that for those people. And when I saw the blacktop go down, I'm like, well, this is good. This is a start.
Yeah, there's an extra wide shoulder on that road specifically for that purpose.
It was broken down though for a while. I mean.
Well, there was a new gas main going in, so they tore it all up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very narrow before because I drive it every day, and now it's really nice.
Yep.
I mean, I went to work this morning and saw all the fancy lights and gas blowing off and fire. But if they keep it that way, that's going to be really nice because there is going to be more, because that's been broken down for so long, those shoulders of those roads.
We'd still like to have the connection to the loop,
Right.
the Boardman Lake Loop at some point in time, so. And then some way for kids to get from those neighborhoods into the Traverse Heights School. Since
Wasn't there an agreement to do that?
there was an agreement to do that, and the city
Decided against it for now?
just scratched it, yeah. Oh, we're older and wiser. Yes.
Question, and I know I brought this up to you, and I know that we were talking about finalizing of the budget, but we were waiting on wages. Do we have something in mind as far as time goes?
We need to set something up. We could.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have a number from the state here shortly.
Okay.
In terms of the cost of living increase. And then we will call another study session to discuss that.
All right. Yeah, I know that was the only thing that we were waiting on before we finalized the budgets.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question. I know you gave us the thing, and it was brought up at the Parks and Rec Commission meeting the other day, that two of our members are up for renewal.
Mm-hmm.
Did we not say at one point in time that they don't have to fill out the full application?
Yes.
Okay, because I thought that was true, and I said something to Steve, and Steve says, well, that they have to fill out. I says, I don't think they have to fill the full application out. They just have to fill out.
Yeah, everybody filled out the full application the first time.
And we have it on file, so they don't need to redo it. They just, okay.
They just have to indicate their willingness to serve again.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure, because I thought that came up before our board, because it was already on file, and rather than redoing it every time, so.
Right.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate for you figuring that out for me.
You're very welcome.
Are you sending out applications to everybody?
We have asked the staff for each board to,
Take care of that.
we have them highlighted in red so they can specifically contact them, and
What about your trustees that are on those boards?
I would like to know what your trustees are thinking too.
You're gonna send us the application so we can.
Well, it's, for the trustees, there's really no application necessary since you're already elected. But it'd just be a matter of stating your intentions and,
For the next year?
yep, and then the board makes the decision.
Okay. So we still need an application if we want to go on more ask to be on more boards?
Yep.
Okay,
I think an email would be fine.
okay. Okay.
All right. Anything else for the good of the township? Then if there are no objections, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.